Okay, I got your message, Rosemarie. She just said I need to move the camera so they can see the whole screen. Thank you, Rosemarie. I appreciate it.
We miss you, girl.
We miss you. Hey, if you can type those keys, you should be down here.
That's right.
Anyway, neither here nor there. All right. Today's lesson is titled, what is that? Oh, let's get to that in a minute. Let's first of all start out with timeless lessons from Mom. I'm sure you've heard these before. What about your mother when she taught you about logic by saying this? Because I said so, that's why. Your mom taught you about medicine by saying, if you don't stop crossing your eyes, they're going to freeze that way. I got half the people in the dark, sorry. Your mother taught you about time travel by saying, if you don't straighten up, I'm going to knock you in the middle of next week. Your mom taught you about justice. One day you'll have kids, and I hope they'll turn out just like you. Then you'll see what it's like. And anticipation. Just wait until your father comes home.
Oh, yeah.
I heard that one. And irony. Keep crying, and I'll give you something to cry about. She taught you about your roots. Do you think you were born in a barn? And finally, she taught you about religion. You better pray that stain will come out of the carpet. Your moms are wonderful, aren't they? All right, the lesson today is life is fair, but it does not have to give you what you want. But we've all heard the idea, the statement, life isn't fair. In fact, I found myself, one of the reasons I wrote this one was because I found myself telling the boys that, and I got to quit saying that. But anyway, life isn't fair. How many people have heard that? Everybody's heard that, haven't they? Yeah, everybody's heard that in life. Life isn't fair. When something goes wrong, something goes wrong. Life isn't fair. But really, life is like Mom. Because I don't know about you, but some of the things, even those quotes that we got just now, some of the things that we hear from our mom are not exactly what we want to hear, are they? And some of the things, especially if you had siblings. I heard, in fact, it's funny about that, because this week I heard somebody say, they did a new study, I don't even know why they did this study, but anyway, they did a new study, and they said single kids are more apt to be nervous, essentially, uptight, and so they have a harder time. Those poor babies. I had siblings, obviously, you can tell. All the single kids I know are pretty darn spoiled. I don't know about you, but that's okay, whatever, whether you're a single kid or not. I know you were, so it's okay, but some of them weren't. So anyway, the boys, I gotta quit saying life isn't fair because, I do that sometimes when I refer back to my childhood when they say, because they want different things, and I may have been that way as a child. I don't think so, but who knows? Maybe it was that one, I hope your kids grow up just like you. But anyway, so they want these things, and I say, that's $120. I'm not going to get you that. That's a lot of money. And so, they do whatever. They're not happy about it. And so then I tell them the story. Well, when I was a kid.
Right.
So, in fact, I told them one yesterday, actually, I was saying, because their birthdays are coming up, and we're having a pool party and all this stuff, and, that's what prompted it, was Aiden said, well, so-and-so said, ask if he could bring his friends to the pool party. And actually, Francie was in the car with me, and we said, no, they can't bring their friends to the party. I mean, if they bring one, sure, they can, but it's not we told them, it's not about them having fun with their friends there. They're coming there to celebrate your birthday and have fun, learn how to meet the other people there. So anyway, then we went on to tell her, or at least I went on to tell them, I said, when your mom and I were kids, we weren't given these big birthday parties with a pool party and have all our friends over. We were lucky if we got a cake. And I always got a cake, but it was that's all I got usually. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Times change, but life is like Mom. Even nowadays, we have limits on what we give our kids, and it's not really in the best interest to give your kids everything that they want, is it? But if we look at it from a spiritual viewpoint, we know that life is fair, but it doesn't always have to give us what we want. And we think about that, if you think about that for a minute, you might be thinking, what does he mean by that? Life isn't always fair. I always wanted to do this and I've never been able to do it. Because we might think of that from our personal experience through our personality, which there's a difference between personality and individuality and unity. And the personality is this person that comes up and has learned a lot of different carnal things and doesn't think about the spiritual side of things. And so we might not get, I'm sure everybody in here at one point in time has said, I really would like to be a millionaire. Of course, when I was younger, that was plenty of money. Now you need to shoot probably a little higher than that. I need to be a billionaire or something. But neither here nor there. So us thinking that, sometimes when we think about that in a carnal sense, in a personality sense, in a human sense, we can look at it and say, life isn't fair because I'm not that way. I don't know if you remember, it's funny that Francie used that last week, that video on, what was it called, with God and the guy that did In Living Color, Jim Carrey. I don't even know the name of that movie. Anyway, whatever, that movie I think had the same thing. There was one of those on the line of that movie.
Wasn't it
God Almighty, Bruce Almighty, yeah, Bruce Almighty, you're right. So anyway, in that movie, he was made to, I think this is the same movie, maybe it's a different one. He was made to be God for a day or two, or a few hours even. And so he said, Morgan Freeman was God, yeah. But because God, Morgan Freeman, has said, oh, well, if you think being God's so easy, okay, I'll let you be God for a little bit. And so he let it be God, and the first thing that Bruce did was, everybody wins the lottery. Right? You remember that?
Yeah.
And then everybody's mad because what? Everybody only won $2 and they paid $5 for the ticket. Well, so everybody's mad at God then. And so anyway, it doesn't work out that way sometimes if that's what we're thinking about it, but from a carnal sense. But when we look at it from a spiritual sense, we really are unlimited and we can have unlimited things, if you will. If you look at Jesus' life, Jesus was not one that went after things, but he went after people to tell them their worth and what they are about and what their spiritual side of things. And just by thinking of that, most people don't understand that by doing that, Jesus received many things. He didn't value them like a lot of people do, but he did receive things. And so Jesus wasn't a poor man in any sense. And the main reason for him that he wasn't a poor man, because he was looking at it from a spiritual sense, but also just looking at it from a human sense, he wasn't a poor man too. But it's because he was following his spiritual guidance. So that is why life is fair, if we look at it that way. Does everything go the way we want it to? Not necessarily. But the reason is this. Because sometimes what we want is not actually what we need. We've always heard that. And that's true, even from a spiritual sense, but I'll tell you why here in a minute. It's not what we want, deserve, or what we need, rather, deserve, and truly want. And that's the bottom part explains the first part as far as what we need. Because we may say we want $1 million, or whatever the amount of money, unlimited money, okay? We may say that, but what does that get you? That's what you want, is what it gets you. Because most people, when they get money, will decide how they're going to live their life freely. But see, you're not prevented from choosing that now, without the money. So it's sometimes it's not hard. It's easy, it's easy, but not always the simplest thing to do. To look at things that way. When I was working at Unity, even at Unity Village, which Unity Village is a really cool place. I mean, you can step on the grounds and recognize that area has been prayed over for centuries, and it's just a wonderful feeling just going on the grounds. But see, when you recognize what Fillmore and Jesus and all these spiritual people were talking about, it's not a place where you should get that feeling. It's where you are where you should get that feeling. Wherever you are, because you're carrying that feeling. You don't have to go to a certain place to get it. But back at the village, what I was going to use as an example, back at the village, that place, everybody that went there always felt something. I know that you've been there, Jim, and I don't know how many people have been there. But you even said in our conversations that you felt that it was really a cool place and there was something different about it and all that. And it's because of all the prayers, there's always praying going on there. There's always sorts of things going on that is from a spiritual perspective. But even there, when I worked there were many people that were feeling that feeling, but not living that, what we're talking about here. So, in other words, like, and I've told this story numerous times, is even the CEO, when I was there for a little bit, there's a couple CEOs, but the CEO when I was there was kind of wanting her way on something, and she was kind of threatening with our paycheck. And me and some other ministers said, well, you aren't our source of money. And, that would even make you madder, wouldn't it, if someone said that to you? And it did. And we weren't trying to do that. But what we were pointing out that is God is our source, not a person or a business or something like that. And we did say that. We did finish it. We did just stop there. Well, you're not a source of income. Because that is the truth. And when we look at it from that, all sorts of things start to happen. All sorts of things. And it's a shift that is hard to do sometimes. I shouldn't say hard. It's easy, but it's not always simple, whichever way it goes. I don't remember which way it goes. It's simple, but not always easy. I think that's the way it's supposed to go. I don't know. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. It's possible, very easily to do, but it's not always easy with our human mind to do it. And so we prevent ourselves from our good sometimes by allowing that. Today's being Mother's Day, and I don't know. I know some people had a rough time with their mom and their raising and all this. And hopefully you found some nourishment from some other figure that was a mother figure to you. But my mom was pretty cool. Did we always get along? No. Did we always agree on stuff? No. But she was, just from my viewpoint, thinking about someone that would raise you in unity, you got to understand that that's probably something a little bit better, I would think. You'd think that. But, I have two siblings, an older brother and a younger sister. Both of them were raised in unity also. And, Sandra sometimes goes to unity, but I'm really the only one in unity, a consistent one. So, and it's not to do with Mother, but it's from her that I was exposed to that. So I appreciated her doing that. And by far, I appreciate her more than have bad memories about her, but I do have one bad memory. And so like you all probably have a bad memory, and I should look, a minister, should have got rid of that a long time ago, right? But I do it because it was the only time in my entire life that she really hurt me to the core. And what do you think she did? It sure wasn't, I got to tell you this real quick first, is, back then, you get spanked, okay? And Mom, when my brother and I specifically, more than Sandra, because Sandra's 10 years behind me, but anyway, my brother and I, she started using this brush on our bottom. It was, it's a hairbrush. It wasn't that big. It's that big. And, she wasn't very strong. So it's kind of like, we'd even kind of laugh sometimes afterwards. We found out pretty quick not to do that, because that wait till your father gets home was a true statement in our house. We didn't want to wait till Dad got home. Go out and pick your switch, whichever one you want to be used on. That was not fun. And he wasn't not strong. He was strong enough to make it. Anyway, back to moms. Yes. Back to moms. So one day, when I don't think they were divorced yet, but they were getting a divorce, obviously, looking back at it now. My brother and I got into it over something, something stupid. But she goes, Mark was his name, and it wasn't any big deal, really. And it still is, I guess it is a big deal. But anyway, she goes, Mark beat the hell out of him because he acted just like his dad. And so, I never thought my mom would turn on me. And she didn't. But, that's the way I received it. And so there's two ways to look at this when we're having a relationship with somebody. First of all, we have to think, have we ever got mad? Have we ever said anything that we wish we could take back? I know I can. I have. Even with the boys. You know, I think that I have become such a better parent, and yes, I still suck at it. You know, I've had so much experience at it. And, you know, there's times when I wish I could take back some things, you know, that I've said or done. So when we are on the giving end of that, I think it's, well, for me, it's easier to recognize, and you need to get practiced at saying, not necessarily I'm sorry. In fact, I teach the boys not to say I'm sorry ever if possible. And I know some people might not like that, but what I prefer them to do is say I apologize. Because even in our words, we have to be careful. We have to try to be careful to what we're saying. When we say I'm sorry, what are we saying? In a way, in the ethers, what we're putting out there is, I'm sorry. I'm a sorry person. Well, you're not a sorry person. You did something wrong, so you apologize. So when we apologize, I think that's better. But when we're on the receiving end of it, what happens? We kind of do, I think what happens is kind of what Warren did, is a stupid thing, is hold it inside and let it fester and hold something against somebody that really made a mistake, and they know it, you know it. But back when our parents were around, do we usually talk about that stuff? Nah, that wasn't the norm, right? We got to take all these things into consideration. What is the norm in our society? What is the norm in our family? You know, which is different. You know, I tell you about the picking off a branch or whatever. Some people didn't experience that, and that's okay. There's norms, there's mores, there's all sorts of things in different cliques of your life that you have to recognize when you're looking at all this. And some people, you know, a lot of cultures have it to where you can just go off on somebody and it really not mean anything. You know, as kids, we say, in our group of kids, sometimes we get into conversations, at least we used to, and I'm sure we do still, say things that we would never say in front of our mother, don't we?
Right.
And so, yeah, definitely. So we do that, and when we do that, we're in the group that we're in. So we want to recognize all those things and bring it back to more of a spiritual level instead of a human, what's going on exactly right now. Okay? And it's sometimes we can't get out of here and be in alignment, which we should try to be. Because it's kind of hard to do sometimes. So what we truly want from these things, though, is, like on my mom's instance, what did I truly want? Well, what I wanted from a carnal sense was, Mom, take my side against my brother. Okay? That's not what I wanted, though, really. Well, that's what I wanted, but that's not what I needed. It's not what I deserved. What I truly wanted was the love of my mother, right? Like we all want the love of our parents.
How old were you?
Well, they were getting divorced.
Last year?
Yeah, last year. That would be cool because she's been dead for quite a while. So, no, I was probably, let me see, they got divorced when I was a sophomore. So that's 16, but I was a year early, so I was 15. I was 15 or 14.
That's when it really stings.
So that's the age I was at. But you know, these things, so where was that? Okay, but what I wanted was the love of my mother, right? And 99.99999% of her life, that's what I got. But in the human sense, in the carnal sense, I've still got that stupid memory. Right? Isn't that unfair to her? It really is. It's unfair to her. Right? I mean, it just is.
It's unfair to you also.
To hold that. Yes, it's unfair. You're right, it's unfair to me.
Because
You don't need to hold.
giving you love.
Exactly. So I don't need to do that, right? And none of us need to do that. We may have outside people too that we're looking at the same way. You know, from the other side, since I've been a parent a lot of times now, a lot of times when we talk about Jesse, my son, my oldest son, well, my second oldest son, you know, he's in prison right now. And a lot of people hear that and say, ooh, which I probably would have too, to be quite honest. There was time in my life, you know what, one of these things, I'm going to quit teaching this stuff because I need to really, it seems like every time I try to teach something, I go through it and I don't like that. So anyway, I don't look at Jesse though any different. And I know a lot of you don't either. But a lot of people, you know, hear that, and me before this too, would look at it and say, you know, oh, he's been in prison, ooh. Which is kind of true, but, you know, he's also, I recognize what has happened to him, and being and loving him like I do, I can see he's hurt himself more than anybody else. And that's definitely a fact. And now he's going through this stuff where, you know, experiencing from working in the judicial system, he's experiencing stuff that he didn't have to experience. And we do that with our own self. We put ourselves in prison sometimes by doing things, putting limitations on our own life. On any aspect of our life, we do that. If we put limitations on our life, even though, Sandy, I'm going to point you out again, even though when I start talking about living forever in the body, it is possible if we're thinking about it being possible. Can we do anything that we think is impossible? No. You can't do anything you think is impossible unless you change your thinking about it and make it possible. We have to change our thinking about it. And you know, some people criticize Unity saying, well, all you teach is how to, if you think this way, then it's going to be that way. Well, that's where it starts. And that's not all we teach. We teach the hardest part. Those people, I say, you can't handle the truth if you have the after the thought part. You can't handle the truth. Because when you change the thought, you're responsible. And if you think that it's easy just by saying, Jesus saved me and I'm okay now because I can do whatever the heck I want as long as I come back and kneel in front of the altar next week, you're wrong. You haven't changed your thinking about that. And that's no diss to Jesus. Jesus would agree with me, to be quite honest. So anyway, let me not get stuck on that. We have to change our thinking, though, to begin this process of becoming our true spiritual self. I heard somebody refer to Fillmore, actually, and I was really kind of happy about this, but I think they got it off a little bit. I think it was a new Unity minister. I don't know. I don't remember who it was. They were talking about Fillmore, talking about the fourth dimension, and I've talked about the fourth dimension to you all before. And we live in a third dimensional world right now. You know, you can see depth with me, and you can see the shape and all this stuff. That's the third dimension, all that stuff. And the fourth dimension is different. The fourth dimension is something where you're still a part of the third dimension, but you've got a fourth dimension. It's like, I don't want to freak you out. I don't want you to think I'm called a loony bin on Warren. It's all the people that are floating in this room right now that are able to look at us too. There's a different dimension that they have. They still have the third dimension. Whenever you think about the dimensions, the lower number dimension, they still have dominion over that. Okay, they've graduated to the next step. You know, Bill. If we look at Bill, he's more than the fourth dimension. Here's where the problem. Here's where I was going to tell you about. He was talking about the fourth dimension, about somebody dying and going to the fourth dimension. That's not what I'm talking about. That's another dimension yet. I don't know if it's the fifth or whatever. The fourth dimension includes this body. You are living in the fourth dimension once you recognize that there is this idea that you could, if you wanted to, make this body regenerate. Regeneration is not an idea that's just, oh, listen to that Warren talking about regeneration again. It's an idea that if you are strong enough in your spiritual understanding that you can continue the normal process, the carnal process of regenerating your cells. You just had an operation and it's healing, isn't it? How is that possible? How can it heal? It's because, oh, you're way too old to have it heal. No, you're not.
But do you know anybody that's regenerated?
Well, I don't know. They have never told me that. You know, according to President Trump, there's people 300 years old on Social Security rolls.
No, I mean, is it written any place where...
No, it is not written any place. And let me ask you something. I was talking about mores and all that stuff and culture and all that stuff. What would you think of somebody if they came up to you and told you, well, I was born in 1621? What if I told you that right now? How many people are going to come back next week? Nobody.
I will.
Good, thank you. I got one backer. Can I get two? No.
Well, unfortunately, our government would come and get you and cut you open to see how
Well,
you.
that may be true
lasted that
too.
long, so nobody's gonna admit to anything.
That may be true too, who knows? So we have to consider all these things when we're looking at our spiritual unfoldment. But we don't have to diminish it. We don't have to lessen it. We don't have to limit it in any way. In fact, I hope you all don't and won't. I gotta get going, I know, because I've got the slideshow. The island of Cyprus, though, believe it or not, this is from the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, means fairness. And the individual consciousness it is in close touch with intellectual reasonings. This is from the Greek teaching and formulated theology. So when a true theologian, which is sort of on the lines of religion, but not really, because of the fact the theologian is more open to all things. Okay? So what I was saying earlier about, can you do the impossible if you think it's impossible? No, you can't. But once it becomes possible, just think of in our lifetime, maybe a little bit before, but yeah, it was a little bit before. I'm not going to tell you about my regeneration yet. We've got airplanes nowadays. For a long time in human existence, there weren't airplanes. And what did everybody think about flying? That's for birds. You can't fly. What are you talking about? But we do now, and everybody thinks, oh, let's go take a plane. We think nothing of it. So what was the problem there? It was our limiting ourselves to thinking that we can't do something, right? So a theologian usually will be open to things that, science and religion are a lot closer than people think. Science always poo-poos religion, but science's new generated ideas come from religion. Or theologians, people that are open to those ideas. That's how all the great things have come about in science, is from an idea. And usually it's from religion. So I heard, I'm not going to get into that joke, I don't have time. Okay, let's go. What we truly want is not usually what we say or think we want. And I really shouldn't have wrote it this way. What we truly want has been not usually what we say think we want. Because we have to change it. And when I say usually, it's still happening. So in my life, I'm not going to be my usual self anymore. I'm going to grow to my unlimited self by releasing anything that I think was limited. My thoughts, my words, my actions. I'm releasing them. I'm releasing limitation. We're going to see this church grow, right? We can't see it grow or think that this is my place where I sit every week, and I want to stay here, and I want this church to grow, but nobody better take my seat. Right? We have to allow ourselves to grow in every way. And then, when we take another seat, guess what happens? We see things differently, don't we?
Yeah.
And sometimes for the better. And I am so grateful, even though those lessons I told you I don't really like a lot of them, I'm so grateful for them because they have changed my viewpoint on a lot of things. Speaking of homosexuality, I think we as humanity have changed tremendously on the idea of that. Now, you still got those people saying, well, the Bible says it's wrong. Well, first of all, the Bible does not say that. But without getting into a conversation about that, haven't we all grown in that area as far as recognizing that love is love, period, right? And it doesn't have to be, love isn't love unless it's this way exactly, right? That's not true. So even the boys are getting to the age where I heard them say the other day, it's really kind of sad, but anyway, it is what it is. Well, I can't remember which one said to the other. One of them said to the other, Well, they were talking about some girl coming to the party, and they said, well, she's your girlfriend. And the other one said, she's not really my girlfriend, she's a friend that's a girl. And you know, so they're learning, this is one of those things that you have to unlearn later in life, really, is that, you know, love is love. It's not, you can love somebody without, you know what I'm saying, don't you?
Romance.
Yeah, without romance. Thank you, that's the word I'm looking for.
Gotcha.
Thank you. It isn't, love is a spiritual thing, it's not a physical thing. Anyway, let's go. This time I gotta read you. This is this little boy talking. Right in the note. Dear life, I have a complete grasp of the fact that you are not fair. So please stop teaching me this lesson. I love that joke, so I had to put it in there. And that's what we get into sometimes, is thinking about how unfair things are. And then we get stuck sometimes, and we've got to get out of it. And that's one of the blessings that I had being raised in Unity, is you don't have to get stuck there. And a lot of people, regrettably, in our world do. This is why we have fights and we have wars. I mean, just think of the main wars that we've got right now. We've got the Ukraine, Russia. They were one country at one time.
Yeah.
We've got India, Pakistan. I had a college roommate that was Pakistani. And we weren't roommates, we were in a class together. But my roommate in college was, his name was Kim. So anyway, it kind of threw me off at first because it was in a co-ed dorm building, you know, but they aren't co-ed rooms. They didn't, so when they said I was roomed with Kim, I thought, oh, this will be fun. Then I got there, Kim. Didn't say a thing to him that semester. Anyway, so what I'm getting to is that we've got to release these preconceived ideas sometimes. Those two warring factions. The guy I was with that was Pakistani, you know, we never got into it, but we kind of talked a little bit about why Pakistanis, they're bordering countries, why Pakistanis hate Indians and why Indians hate Pakistanis. And we didn't really, at least I can't remember how much we talked about it, not much because we were in a competition. We did really good. This is a harder class in college. I can't remember which one it was, but anyway, it's a harder class. So we, at the first of the semester, decided, well, we'll have a contest to see who makes the highest grade. And we both made A's, but he like 99 and 95 or something like that. Anyway, so but to think that you're neighbors and yet you're fighting, I mean, to kill each other. That's gone to an extreme of thinking somebody is something other than what they are.
Right.
If you are spiritually based, coming from a spiritual understanding, then you know that that person was made by God too.
Right.
And when you're killing that person, you're killing a part of God, which is the same as killing a part of yourself. Right? And I know that there's bad actors out there. I do. I was talking to the other guy, a guy the other day about Putin. And anyway, you know. This is from the Leviticus. You shall do no injustice in court. You shall not be partial to the poor or defer to the great. But in righteousness shall you judge your neighbor. This is extremely important, and that's why I used it here. But I said it, in fact, I think in the meditation. What is righteousness? It's right thinking. Correct thinking, not right thinking, correct thinking, okay? Just like I was saying, if you think of other people as being divinely created, then you cannot kill them. I mean, you may argue with them and things and disagree vehemently, and that's okay, but that doesn't mean you can kill them. But when we're righteousness, when we're right thinking, and it's important here, because we do this. We do this to this day. Partial to the poor. Oh, that guy's out there begging. Let's go to the restaurant and get him something. When if we look back at what we're talking about, sometimes, not all the times, sometimes, don't jump on me, what do they want? What does that person want?
Cash.
So they either want money, maybe they're looking for drugs, maybe they're alcoholic. That's what they're wanting on the physical too. That's not really what they want either. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've I usually give food on those situations. And if I have it, hopefully I do. But anyway, I gave this guy, actually I went to a Wendy's and bought him some food and brought it back to him, and he threw it down and said, that's not what I want. Okay, I just drove on. But all the other times, been fine. So, sometimes we have to think about things differently. But we do that sometimes. When we see somebody begging, what do we think of sometimes? Hopefully not anymore, but after this. We think of, oh, poor him, poor her, right? They're not poor. They can be lifted up. That's the best thing you could do for them is pray for them, really, and is lift them up. And I wouldn't suggest saying that to them right then, because they probably won't appreciate that either. But that is our choices sometimes in what we do. And also on the other side. Now this one's easy because we do that. Where's the money? The great. Or defer to the great. Yeah. The money, great people, they don't know more than you do. Okay? Don't defer to them saying, oh, wow. Because I think that usually happens when we're younger, doesn't it? As we get older, we kind of recognize it. That guy's not too damn smart. And he's got all this money or whatever he's successful at. Okay? Anyway. Our life out pictures, this is kind of the old thinking, hard unity thinking. Our life out pictures what we are thinking, both individually and collectively. Individually is the hard part. When we look at our life and we see something that we don't like, we can either think, oh, this is the problem. They did this. They did that. What happens? We did it. And this is the hard part. This is the hard part I was talking about, those people that think I can be saved and that everything's okay. I did it. I did it. And whatever happens out there is something that I've done. I've projected. An old unity teaching. Most people don't teach it anymore, but it's the truth still. It's always been the truth. The thing about truth is it doesn't ever change. And if you ever want to compare us to unity to a hardline Christian place where you got to be saved or you're going to go to hell, that's the part of it. You can't really compare the two though, because we can tell you, you don't have to go there. And they're going to say, you're going to go there unless you obey me, the great one, up in the pulpit. It's wrong. Wrong. Spirituality out pictures when we allow our thoughts, words, and actions, though, to be in alignment with the divine. And it's the great thing about it is, no matter where we put ourselves, wherever we can see our faults and what we don't want to happen, it can change just like that. Just like that. Thinking, changing, removing all the negativity, removing all the limited thoughts, it changes immediately. It doesn't take any money in your hands. It doesn't take whatever for it to change immediately in you. And once that changes in you, things will be different, period. For as long as you stay on that path. Now, if you change the path, then you're back to, you did it to yourself. Okay. Life is unfair when we think it should look a certain way and it does not. Okay, I'm going to kind of breeze through these. When we realize that life is a guiding force which is leading us to our highest good, it is fair. If we recognize, I know some people don't believe in creation too, and that's okay, but you're going to have to explain it to yourself some other way. I mean, you can say, oh, well, we came from apes and all that stuff. I don't believe that, but that's okay. You don't have to believe the same way I do. But if you believe that there's a divine spark in you, however you believe that, then you have to recognize that that divine spark wants what for you? Good. And only good. If there is divinity in you, which there is, Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, then that spark, or however big it is in you, wants only good for you. It's the mom in you saying, I lift you up, I'm so proud of you, child. It's the dad in you that says the same thing. Dads kind of get a bad rap sometimes, I think. Because, each of us have the male and the feminine inside of us, right? The masculine and the feminine. You know that. I mean, you ought to see it when some females get mad. Ooh. They don't look well. They're not using their femininity then.
I'm the female, she's the man.
Oh, that's what I was kind of thinking, Nikki. Yeah, twins are a little bit different. They have, one's one and one's the other. You're right. Okay, now let's get to the I'm going to get to it. Allow life to bless you today, though, beginning with this slideshow, because I want to get to this, because I'm running a little bit late. So let's look at this slideshow of your mom. Hopefully you sent us some things.